Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We have some good videos for you today that I think you're going to like. How's all my peeps doing? I trust that all my peeps are doing just fine. Anyway, just, kind of running behind as usual, trying to keep all the things in order and making sure all the things are going out appropriately. But you know what? We did it by the skin of our big teeth. By the skin of our teeth, we have got most of it online. Most of it is where it needs to be. As I am finally putting my little final touches on it, we are going to be ready to go. Anyway, great jobs report today. The economy keeps on pumping, and the only solution that the right has is to go ahead and say, you know what? Don't believe your eyes. Bidenomics is not working by inflation and all the little silly things that you hear. But you know what? I am here to set the record straight. I am here to set the record straight. Misinformation will not be tolerated. Ill-informed people we have a bit of pity for you. But again, we are not here to spin. We are here simply to tell things the way that they are. Eric Hayes is in the house. Keep up the good work, Mr. Hayes. Keep giving me material. Thank you. E2247 from all over is in the house. Eric Hayes, of course, is from where again? Eric Hayes is from Atascocita, Kingwood. E2247 from all over around. Lee Grant from Montgomery County. We also have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. We also have in the house with us. I'm scrolling up. ABQ is in the house. He is from Brooklyn, New York. Yvette Avery Herod is from Atlanta, Georgia. And as more people come in, I will tell them hello. All right. So let's start with the prices of chicken is up. Well, if you got to kill 2 million chickens because because our industrial complex, the way we treat animals, the way we keep them all bundled together for maximal efficiency, that they stay in little places like this and they eat and they get sores and all of that. You get a little bit of infection, like the swine flu or the avian flu. And what happens? Oh my God! Avian flu spread through the entire coop. There you goes, your 2 million chickens. 2 million chickens has to be disappeared in a santiamén. All right? Again, when we talk about these prices that go up supposedly because of things that these corporate buffoons didn't have control over, let me wake you up. There are ways of growing animals, if you're a meat eater, that isn't conducive to the spreading of disease when 1, 2, or 3 animals get it. But when you have one chicken place with 100,000 or 50,000 chickens in one place, because you want to make an extra 2 or 3 pennies on it, so that you can lose 10% of your chickens and you're still making a profit. So it's better than giving the biggest space for them to grow and be more healthy. Of course, you get price increases because of temporary shortages. And whose fault is that? It's not ours. It is your very intelligent corporate beings, very intelligent corporate beings. Okay? So let's be clear here, folks. Every time you see a price increase, don't blame Biden. Don't blame your government. Look in the mirror and remind yourself that you supported corporations, all right? That you supported corporations that, in order to get that last dollar, was willing to put your personal economy at risk. Remember that. So get some brain matter fixed and understand where the problem is. All right, let's continue. Let's see. Watching from Twitch, according to AVQ, slept right through an earthquake this morning. Couldn't have waited a month so we can make all the May the 5th earthquake jokes. New Yorkers felt a disturbance in force. And you slept through it, Michael Rudnin. You are a heavy sleeper, brother. Michael, let's see. Yvette says, good afternoon, PDR Posse. Michael says, from Politico, pro-Israel group looks to oust two members of the squad, Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush. Opponents have attracted the support of pro-Israel groups, and we must attract the attention of those pro-Israel groups and put them in the place where they deserve to be. Call them out. All this concern about dark money and foreign elections interference when Russia or China does it, but when it's Israel, there's nothing but silencio, silence. There we have a foreign country trying to have influence on our election. It needs to be called out. AVQ, you're absolutely right. Just in case any of the, from Michael again, just in case any of the conservatives share, understand that you're next. Axios, AIPAC targets Republican Israel critics in rare GOP primary play. United Democracy Project, the super PAC of pro-Israel group AIPAC, is launching more than 500,000 in ads against former Representative John Hostetler in his bid to return to Congress. Ha, ha, ha. Remember, Israel used to be a bipartisan thing. You should, and you know what they're showing? They're showing that they want you to they want you to just do as you're told. Just like they were running Biden for the longest time, and now Biden is starting to get a spine, right? And notice I just said starting. It is time for us to go hard at Netanyahu. It is time for us to bring Netanyahu and let him know who's buttering his bread, the American taxpayer. All right? You have the power. All right, let's see. E2247, Biden will sign a new $18 billion weapon transfer to Israel with 50 more F-15s, another 1,800 of the 2,000-pound bombs, plus 500 more 500-pounders. And what we must do, again, I repeat, what we must do is pressure him to hold back on those arms until our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Gaza are fed, until they are made whole or start to make them whole. Thank you for your good work on keeping us informed on Israel, my dear brother E2247. And let's repeat what he says. Day 182 since 7th of October, at least 33,091 Palestinians killed, 18 persons more than day 181. Wow, they only killed 18 people yesterday. My God, as if that is not a lot. At least 75,750 wounded. That's 82 people more than yesterday. 841 casualties equal 598 per day of estimated 5,385,012. 2% of the West Bank and Gaza Palestinian population with 33,091 Palestinians killed. 182 per day. Thank you for giving us that information. Very important information for us to see the scope of what you're talking about. All right. Eric K says a perfect solution to ending the deficit in 2011. CNBC interview with Buffett said, I could end the deficit in 5 minutes. You just passed a law that says that anytime there is a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, all sitting members of Congress are ineligible for re-election. At its core, Buffett's plan is about accountability. The current members of Congress would be incentivized to maintain a deficit under 3% of GDP or risk losing the chance of re-election. This rule would increase lawmakers' responsibility for fiscal policies as their political future would hinge on their ability to manage the nation's debt. I like Buffett, but that's a stupid, stupid statement coming from somebody who has made his money on stocks. Look, I Buffett is a nice guy in that he's going to give away what he's made, but it's not like he had a career that's honorable. Being able to pick stocks and make money off the backs of others, I don't consider that an honorable profession. It's a profession, but it's not a teacher. It's not a firefighter. It's not a doctor. It's not an engineer. It's just somebody playing with paper on other people's work. Okay? So that's an asinine statement from Mr. Buffett. And that he made it in 2011, I understand. But it's the stupidest statement I've ever heard. First of all, money is not something that's absolute. It isn't. Money is fungible until we understand money. Statements like that, and he should know better than making a statement like that. Melanie Keelan says, Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday to you too, Melanie. Lee Grant says, Hey, y'all. And Eric says, Ask Egberto. Please, folks, don't forget Ask Egberto tomorrow at 11 Central Time for us. Give us a Zoom call. I'll put the link in there in a little bit. Lee Grant, I discussed the prices rising with you. Michael says, Egberto, that's a good point about factory farming and disease spread. Compassion in world farming, concentrated animal feeding operations, or factory farms create the perfect storm for disease like bird flu to spread. Avian influenza that typically spreads naturally through wild birds does not pose much of a risk and generally does little harm to the animals. But yeah, in order to make a few more pennies, they're willing to make these animals that are nourishing our bodies, they make them live through hell, diseases, infestations, roaming in their own feces. That's what our farming is all about. We don't care about the dignity of those living beings that which we are eating, right? What makes us different than the tiger, the lion, or anything else? Bruce Pollard is in the house from Kingwood, Texas. Welcome aboard, brother Bruce. He says, Buck, the same things happen to tomatoes in my yard. I hear you, buddy, but at least you're growing tomatoes. You're becoming self sufficient. All right, Michael Segiberto, as it comes to factory farming and health, there's an even bigger concern. The world counts 80% of all antibiotics used in the United States are fed to farm animals. Antibiotics are common fed to farm animals to increase the weight of the animal and thereby the profit. It is also done to compensate for the poor conditions the animals are living in. But why not give them better living conditions? It's amazing, right? It'll reduce the amount of antibiotics that you need to use to keep that animal healthy, and it'll prevent what's called the resistant bacteria, which they are causing by pumping all these animals up with antibiotics. It's amazing how just having a livable farm could make things a lot better, right? And eating better foods, right? E2247 says, I grew up in a 40,000 chicken born on a farm, and I hate chicken. Stupid a bird never was. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. All right, let's see what we say here now. Michael Radin says Eric deficit spending is necessary. The government has a lot of work to do. Infrastructure investment to forestall the existential threat of global warming is a must. There's also a matter of social welfare, specifically to raise quality of life in citizenry by way of universal healthcare. Let me tell you what these people don't understand, right? And this is what drives me crazy. All right. If I build a bridge, I am converting whatever monies that I created into a bridge. And people try to make your credit card similar to what the government does. It is one of the most asinine things to do. All you need to do is make sure that the spend, in fact, technically speaking, and this is going to raise the ire of a lot of people. Technically speaking, we don't even need to collect taxes, right? Technically speaking, the government could just build a bridge and print money, right? As long as there is enough economic activity where shortages aren't available or don't occur, right? That would be okay because we create our own money. We have a sovereign currency. And guess what, people? Extra, extra, that's what we do. They don't quite tell you that way, but that's what we do. Okay? Now we keep a lot of money out of the economy because when we deficit spend, in effect, to keep the books in a certain in a certain type of economic balance, we sell bonds, which means we put bonds out. The rich person gives us money for that bond. We take that money out of the economy, right? That's all we're doing. When you build a bridge with deficit dollars, right? You're just saying, okay, because this bridge requires employees that are going to throw more money into the economy. We're going to buy more material that's going to throw more money into the economy. Let me sell a bond and take some of that money out of the economy so that when all that other money comes into the economy from building the bridge, it goes ahead and it doesn't create hyperinflation, right? But as Miss Stephanie Kelton has pointed out, based on the efficiency of our economy, we have a slack of several $billion per year in our economy. And thus, the government doesn't have to remove that much of its own deficit spending. I know it counters a lot of what the right wing tells you. Hell, a lot of what neoliberal tells you. Hell, a lot of what progressives tell you. But it's the reality of economics. And I know it's hard to believe because you think that something you got to pay a bill, that the government is like a regular person paying a bill. They are completely and entirely different. The only reason a government doesn't just print money to build stuff is to prevent throwing an excess amount of dollars chasing too little. And that's why when they borrow money to build a bridge by taking money out of the economy, they take it from the investor, right? That investor just get a piece of paper and it keeps things self-regulated in a manner of fact. But we do have slack to do more. Again, folks, these are things that aren't taught to you. These are things that they don't want you to know. Because if you knew all of this, there is so much more we would do. People would have so many more freedoms because economic freedom breeds all kinds of freedom. And if we went ahead and paid for raising, I mean, the amount of money it takes to raise children, if we paid for a lot of these different things, right? Guess what would happen? We would have a much better economy. We will have much more mobile people that would be able themselves to get better jobs, but the corporatocracy doesn't want that. And they don't want that because they need you to be less than independent. They want you dependent. Again, all of this stuff is corroboratable that you can go research on your own. But I need you all to stop believing the fallacies that you hear on standard regular TV because that's exactly what they are, fallacies. They want you to believe or indoctrinate you in a certain manner so that you are pretty much doing things against your better interests. Well, I have some videos for you, my brothers and sisters. Great videos for you. And I'm about to get there with you right now. Just loaded one. First of all, a billionaire did what today? He called out Donald Trump with Truth Social. And it was great that it came from a billionaire. You know what? A guy in his own class. So let's go ahead and play that one now. And then we'll take it on the other side. Hear ye, hear ye, hear you. Here is a billionaire, a guy in the billionaires class that has no fear in talking and telling the truth about Donald Trump. And for billionaires to do that, you know, they're a special breed. I don't know too much about Barry Diller, but I tell you what, the fact that he's out there telling some truths, I think it is very, very important. And, you know, listen to what he thinks about Donald Trump, what he thinks about the people buying the stocks in Truth Social, even though we all know it's based on nada, niet, nothing. And most of all, he gave the perfect description of what Trump has ever done and who Trump is. Check this out, then we'll take it on the other side.
Truth Social. You've seen the stock on the move in this, I'll call it remarkable, maybe even crazy way.
Just say 2 words, GameStop.
GameStop. That's what you think is going on here.
It's ridiculous.
The
company has no revenue.
But do you think it could ever be a bigger business? Do you think if he wins the presidency, it becomes
Why?
I'm asking.
Why would it be bigger? Look, he's only interesting now because he's out there entertaining the folks. I hope if he does get elected, he just plays golf for 4 years. But
so, do you think that all of the investors in this are getting scammed? Do you think they think this is a transference of wealth from one side to the other, and that's the goal? What do you think is happening?
I think they're dopes. I mean, who would buy a company that literally has? I mean, I think, what does it have? $30 of revenue. Why would you how could you put a value on it? They're buying it for other reasons, just like they bought theaters when there was no theater business, or they bought GameStop or whatever. It's stupid. It's stupid stuff.
It was 1,000 times revenue, I think. I think it was wasn't it $4 million? It was
$4 million in revenue. That's $4 million in revenue. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it's not real.
$4 million.
Why are you even talking about this? It's a scam, just like everything he's ever been involved in is some sort of con.
Why are you even talking about this? That is billionaire media executive Barry Diller slamming Trump media and its investors, comparing the company to meme stocks with no real value.
So, yes, he calls the people who are buying the stock, I don't want to repeat the word, but, well, I'll say dopes. And the reason why is you allow yourself to do that. These people ought to know better. The stock is based on absolutely nothing. And it's worth $6 billion now. I believe it lost $2 billion or so. So, I mean, yeah, who would buy something that loses $50 million and only has $5 million in revenues? Doesn't compute, right? Doesn't compute. But then the dealer said the most important thing that everybody should realize, including those people who are thinking about voting for this guy as a president. He's a con man. Everything that he's ever done, as Diller would put it, and he would know, has been a scam, including his presidency, a scam on America. What he did with the tax rates, what he did with the tariff, using the tariff to pay off part of the deficits that created by doing his tax cut. But then he tells you a story, and for those of you who want to believe his story, because he's coming with another message of supremacy, etc., you choose to believe that story because you want it to be true, even though it makes no practical sense. Well, Diller is here to tell you that the man is a scam artist, that to buy his stock is equivalent of being a dope, and secondly, or lastly, that this is nothing more, or the man is nothing more, that is, Mr. Trump is nothing more than a con artist. You've been told, you've been warned. We've been telling you all along. I hope, but I think progressives will save the day and create a landslide win for anybody but Trump. But if for some reason my predictions, which I think is correct, doesn't work, and you get this guy and you decide to vote for this guy, you would have gotten exactly what you would deserve after being informed that, again, from many people, not all left-wing progressives like me, a guy on the right like Barry Diller says Trump is a con man and everything that he has ever done has been a scam. I rest my case. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join. All right. Okay, Eric, let's first talk about it. First of all, before that, let me tell you, Bruce, we are working very hard on that. In fact, we have a group called the Texas Grassroots Alliance, that we are working very, very, very hard to do exactly that. It's a consortium of groups and groups and groups that is doing exactly that, bringing people in to vote, registering them to vote, and it's through the complete state. In this case, it's through the state of Texas, but it also has consortiums in different states around the country. I joined them a few months ago as sort of their media person, one of their media persons, I should say. But yes, it is the Texas Grassroots Alliance, among other groups. That's exactly what they're doing, my brother. Registering to vote, and not only registering to vote, that's only half the step. You have to touch these people several times to ensure that they're going to vote. Now, with respect to a shortage of farmland, I think you have to take that with a grain of salt. If you doubt me, just drive down I 10, drive I 45. I think I can be heard now. All right, I think I had some problem there. Now, I hope you guys heard everything that I said. But anyhow, as it turns out, as it turns out, um, I would find it hard to believe that we have a shortage of farmland. Even the desert that we have, the desert that goes mile after mile after mile, present good farmland. Now, we are running out of farmland as formed by capitalism. But if we wanted to have the right kind of collective farming, we could get the necessary resources to use. If we were running out of arable land, which we're not, we could actually use the deserts and all of that by bringing in all kind of brackish water that we cleaned up. I mean, there are so many options that we have if it's not governed by capitalism. If it's governed by capitalism, we're hosed, right? Because capitalism means to have a farm, you have to be able to underpay the farmer, underpay these people so that those guys on top can make a whole lot of profit on the backs of people. But let's postulate a possibility. Let's say we noticed that we had to find a way to create a farm out of the capitalist model. All we would do is we could go ahead and create out of thin air the power plants needed to clean water so we don't take it out of the ground and mess that up. And we turn millions of acres of desert, if we're really out of farmland, into places that grow. In fact, if you take a look at certain parts of our desert, that's where we grow vegetables year round. So no, that's I don't buy that. But anyhow, let me read what Michael had to say here, which is Eric China owns about 350,000 acres of farmland, and half of which are in Texas. If you think this is a problem, a potential national security risk, make it a local issue and bring it up to your next community event, United Press International. Chinese ownership of U.S. farmland and locations raised concerns. Well, I don't know if I'm so concerned about that. After all, it's here, It's here. Come on, it's here. We don't have to give them. We can do whatever we want. It is a land. It's in our backyard. Can they take the land and take it to China? No, but they can grow product on it, or they can decide not to grow product on it, and we can decide to tell them if we were in trouble. No, you're not going to do that. My hunch is that they do that because they're a very populous country. All right, let's see what else we got here. Bruce Pollard said, heard of Reach. Yeah, what is it? Reach is a part of the Medicare Advantage system. If I recall, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Bruce. Let me know if that's what you mean. All right, what else have we got here? Yeah, only 3 seconds of silence. Great. For some reason, this stuff shut out every so often. All right, Michael Ronan says, if we as a society invested in infrastructure, pumping desalinated water into desertified land becomes a possibility. But yes, that requires government intervention, and it's why I keep talking about infrastructure investment. Exactly. There's never, look, people would have you believe that there's a shortage of water. It's not true. There's no shortage of water. There's a shortage of will. There's a shortage of what our capitalist system does in order to get water. Let's look at Nigeria as an example. Nigeria is a land of plenty, a lot of water, a lot of resources, but still people are allowing Nestle to come in there and they get their water purification plants to go south as they use bottled water. And what does that do? It pollutes their streams with plastics. It pollutes the oceans with plastic, when all they need to do is make sure that their potable water from their own plants invested in by the government will do the job. But again, this is where the private sector comes in and say, you know what? We can commoditize anything, including your water. And then we have the sycophants who decide we are going to support these privateers who are there simply to make a buck on your pain. Anyhow, I have another video, and this one that it's a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll take it on the other side. In a perfect example of how our economic leaders have turned us into zombies that simply cannot see the good for the good. Today was another blockbuster day, 303,000 jobs created in the last month. And somehow it starts out like, wow, the economy is on fire, to then which all the worries begin. Oh my God, we just had too many people employed. You know, it is something that I've said about this economic system for a long time, right? Is that it is dependent on having the middle class and poor, a certain percentage of them hurting. Because if they're doing too well, the people on the top don't like it. But it is different. The reason they don't like it is a different reason than they would tell you. They would tell you that we don't like it because interest rates are going to be going up, because, you know, if we have a strong labor market, and if people are buying things, etc., that somehow inherently an overheated economy will create inflation. But that is the biggest fallacy we have learned. I tell you what, let's go ahead and listen to this morning, Joe, some segments within this, some clips within this segment that I put together. And then we'll talk a little bit more on the other side.
Large job numbers came out. It was released moments ago. Good Lord. This is an economy that you can't keep down. And that's not actually great news for the Biden administration in this election year. It shows the U.S. economy added 303,000 jobs last month. Economists expected the number to be closer to 200,000. All right, Andrew. So there's a reason why I only went into the business school for one class, Econ 101, and I sat in the back reading Sports Illustrated and probably slipped out of there with a gentleman's C-. It's because this is just so maddening. In economics, good news is bad news is good news. And I will admit, I was sitting here hoping that number was going to be a little bit lower so we could get those interest rate cuts. And so this economy would cool down. Man, you know, you can't cool this economy down, Andrew, can you?
But to some extent, that's a good news story, because it means that we have more people coming into the workforce than before. And yet we're able to actually now have lower unemployment numbers. You're having higher wages. You're finally having wages that are outstripping inflation, which is a good trend line. Especially when you think about some of the political dynamics that represents. I'm not sure I look at this and say this is such terrible news. I know there was an expectation earlier in the year that the Fed might lower their interest rates this June. I think that may be off the table now. You're looking from just even the betting markets right now. That's getting pushed off a little bit too. And the percentage chance that happens is now lower than it used to be. But nonetheless, I think this is all good news. And interestingly, you look at where the jobs are coming from. It's hospitality. It's education. It's healthcare. These are all high touch businesses. And that also is a function a little bit of the sort of pre-pandemic, post-pandemic world, which is it's all come back. And so, I mean, the real question is how long does that persist till they get to sort of a steady state? But clearly there's some good news there.
But my concern is, of course, again, good news is good news. And yes, it's great for all the reasons that Andrew said. At the same time, inflation still could go up. Oil over $90 now. again, this is an economy that can heat up just like this. I find it hard to believe that the Fed is going to lower interest rates twice this year if the economy keeps growing like this.
I don't disagree with you. Oh, well, Andrew's right. Good news is good news. This is a really strong report. There's even kind of an immigration story hidden in here with all these people coming into this country. Employers are scooping them up. There are jobs to be had. But I think the point that you're getting at goes to how Americans feel and the inflation point. And so Andrew pointed out, listen, it's great that wage growth is moving faster, higher than inflation. That's great on paper. But let's remember this. When people get paid more money, when they get a raise, they credit themselves with it. But when life is expensive, which it is, they blame the government. So when you go to the grocery store and things cost a lot of money, I could say, well, guess what? We've had the best economic recovery in the world. No one says, well, gee, I was planning to move to Spain and it's more expensive there. When my son gets a job this summer making hoagies and gets paid $17 an hour, he's going to think it's because he's a great hoagie maker. He's not. And you could also argue, well, all these companies, they're price gouging. They should lower their prices. They're not going to lower their prices anytime soon. Life is expensive, and that's what makes this challenging. But to Andrew's original point, no one can argue we have a bad economy. We have a very strong one that has a difficult political story to tell because life's expensive.
So we'll ignore the slide on your son's hoagie making ability. But Donnie, the political story to tell. Steph just alluded to it. I mean, the president has put out a statement just a few moments ago talking about how this report marks a milestone in America's comeback.
I try to tell us all, let's grow up. A strong economy, a lot of people getting work over and beyond what is expected of them to get work. Wages are going up because as more people are there, as more people go for jobs, etc., and as the economy needs more jobs to reach people, they're going to have to pay them what they're worth. I mean, which is what they should be doing in the first place. But in so doing, in trying to tell us that, well, there are just too many people working now, it actually gives licenses to the thugs that runs our corporations to do what they do best, rob us of our money via higher prices, and also the feds creating higher interest rates. Neither one of those are necessary. You have been lied to. Okay? First of all, you heard Morning Joe said, Joe Scarborough talks about, oh, I can't believe it. Oil prices are now $90 a barrel. It doesn't need to be there. It is there by choice, by our economic choice. We could decide, we could say that all oil produced in the United States will stay in the United States, as we kind of have a law that way, but we can really mean it. We can also say we will make sure that Venezuela is opened up to the world, as opposed to the blockade that we quote unquote, I mean, it's not official blockade, but that's causing them their oil, which they have the largest supply of oil on the market. We could twist the arms of Saudi Arabia, who has kept on taking oil off the market to create false scarcity. In other words, prices genuinely goes up when there's not enough resources, and people can bid so that I can get it because I paid more for it than you do. But the things that's causing our price rises are not because of shortages naturally. They are because of shortages created by these executives to force prices up. You know how we could get rid of that? The government could immediately say, price increases over a certain base will be taxed at 90%. You go ahead, raise prices as much as you want. Raise prices as much as you want. What we will do is then take those excess profits and we'll tax them at 90%, and we'll give it right back to the people. This economy doesn't belong to the executives. This economy doesn't belong to the shareholders. This economy belongs to all of us. We all work in this economy. We all participate in this economy. We all shop in this economy. We all create inventions in this economy. We all build in this economy. To give a select few the power to say, I am going to gouge you with prices, and then have the feds, instead of the feds and the government saying you will not be allowed to charge that. And if you do charge it, because it's a free country, what we can do is we can tax your profits at 90% and redistribute that right back to the people from whence you stole it. We have that option as a society to do. Because those people who would say, well, if you start taking people's profits away, that somehow they'll leave the country or go somewhere else, tell them to leave the country. Tell them to go. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. Because you know why you're here? The biggest military is there to protect your colonialism around the world. You know why you're here? Because you can't do it anywhere else. You can't charge $1,300 for Ozempic that you charge us here. Our corporations rip off Americans, and we acquiesce to it. You can't charge us $1,000 a month for insulin when overseas you charge them $35. You rip us off. You look at us and you say, Americans, you are stupid people. That's what corporations tell us. They tell us, because based on the way they treat the rest of the world and how they treat us, they tell us that we are stupid. We don't have healthcare for all. Other countries do, and they get a better deal for the buck. Even our social security is at risk. They're privatizing our Medicare, and in doing so, what happens? It takes away our health. Doesn't happen overseas, doesn't happen in France, doesn't happen in Canada, it doesn't happen in Great Britain. When is good news going to be good news for us all? We have to wake up. These price increases don't have to be. A strong economy does not depend on high prices when you have enough people to produce it. They talk about the border. Oh my God. The border we could turn the border into the best thing that ever happened. Because you know what? That 303 employment rate tells us that as we get more people employed, those employed people are going to need more services. And as they need more services, we're going to need more employees. And it's going to go around and around and around till we hit steady state. But it's clear we're not yet at steady state. People, they are vested in your ignorance. I repeat, our corporatocracy, our oligarchy, our plutocracy, the leaders of our enterprises, they are vested in you being uneducated. Please don't take what I'm saying at face value. You can look it up. You can query economists who really care, the ones that didn't buy their degrees out of Wharton College or one of these business schools, who are there to simply indoctrinate you. It's not difficult math. Business math is some of the simplest math out there. It's not difficult to understand. It's not difficult to understand supply and demand. If you have a lot of oil all over the world, why is oil $90 a barrel? If you have people ready to work the land and you have an excess of land throughout this country, there's absolutely no reason, none, absolutely no reason for prices to be high, given the abundance of riches we have both in labor, land, and abilities. The only reasons we have inflation, the only reasons we have shortages, they are manufactured by the corporatocracy, the corporations, to make themselves a profit. And if you doubt it, look at their profit statements, look at their balance sheets. It's right there in black and white. They're hoping that you are so dumb that you won't ever go ahead and read it and say, oh my God, these inflation rates directly correlate with your excess profits, with your stock buybacks. People, let's get smart and let's stop being indoctrinated by a whole bunch of parasites who themselves don't have much upstairs. I guarantee you, most of you have more upstairs than the execs in these companies. I can guarantee that. Why do we allow them to do what they do to us? Let's grow up. Yes, we need to grow up. We need to stop, we need to stop having silly statements like my brother Eric. Oh, become a shareholder. In other words, participate in a fraudulent system. Become a shareholder. Join the casino. Join the casino. Then he also says, and the reason I'm bringing that up is just to show the mental slavery that some of us are living in. He said other countries have less people and no way the issues of America via its self-destructive government policies. Huh? These other countries are socialist. We look at the Scandinavian countries. So you agree that the Scandinavian countries with their socialist beliefs or their socialist programs are better than ours. They have less problem than ours. Thank you, Eric, for believing that. You just made my day. I want the Scandinavian type economy as well. Okay? So thank you. It seems like we are in agreement. And then, of course, the big thing that Brother Eric says is, if you don't like it, Egberto, move. No, you move. I'm going to try to make America a better place for all of us. And if you fight America being a better place for all of us, you can move. I am going nowhere. None of us who are progressives who want better things for human beings are going anywhere. And we are not going to allow those with enslaved minds to change our progress forward. You get it? Progressive, progress, progress, progress. No, it won't happen. It won't happen. Those who can't accept the goodness of what progressives are going to bring, you guys should feel free to leave, however. Very much so. All right, Bruce says we want a high oil price reduce us use, but the profit should go to the U.S. I agree. But right now we have to educate people, Bruce, because once you raise the price of oil, because of it'll reduce demand, you'll have those charlatanes, the enslaved mind people saying, you see the price of oil is high, and it's like, yeah, we want you to use less. You know? Again, Bruce, you're a genius, but again, we have to use more than a genius mind to work on those who have been co-opted by the plutocracy. Okay, I only have time to do my last video real quick, so let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's see, here we go, right there. You know, Republicans continue to bank on Americans having a shallow memory, that they only think about what happened yesterday or the day before, right? So Donald Trump and his ilk think they can say, hey, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Well, of course you are better off than you were 4 years ago. People say, oh, but people don't feel it. There's inflation. Yes, there is inflation, but your wages are going up faster than inflation. And by the way, if you want to blame somebody for inflation, blame the only people who have the ability to increase prices, whether they need to or not, and that's your corporation. So the people that the Republicans defend so often are the ones that are giving them the shaft. So the question again is, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Of course you are. Whether you want to accept it or not, people are saying, well, you can't tell people to feel a certain way. They're better off, but they don't feel that way. That is like saying a ball, if I let a ball go, it's definitely going to fall on the ground, but I don't feel like that ball is going to fall and hit the ground. People wake to hell up. In the aggregate, are we better off than we were 4 years ago? Absolutely. Are we better off than we were all these other times? Absolutely. And reporters and media, stop playing into the fallacies of the right that's given people making people believe it is okay to fool themselves. It is okay to lie to themselves. It is okay to feel a certain way, even if the reality is a stark difference. Grow up. But anyway, listen to what we have to hear with El Señor Hayes, because he puts it out in video. Check it out.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Nearly every presidential candidate asks the question, including Donald Trump, who really shouldn't. And his supporters, folks like Sean Hannity, are even getting defensive about it.
But over there at that hard-hitting news show, The View, Whoopi Goldberg is accusing you of having memory issues for believing that you were better off 4 years ago.
Okay, let's try to remember back then. We've got some evidence. It's the front page of the New York Times. It's from 4 years ago exactly. Today, April 3rd, 2020. Headline, unrivaled job losses accelerate across U.S. 6.6 million apply for benefits. Commerce grinds to near halt. Few unscathed by toll of virus across the city. That big map there was showing the movements of Americans based on cell phone data, and it showed in white where those stay-at-home orders had halted almost all travel. States like New York and Michigan. The situation was bad, and it was scary, and it was getting worse. And the president, overseeing this unspooling disaster, was trying to sell a totally different reality in his daily 77-minute news conference.
Breaking news tonight, more than 250,000 coronavirus cases recorded in the U.S. In New York, the deadliest day so far. Who dropped the ball?
Well, I always knew that pandemics are one of the worst things could happen.
On the front lines, a dire shortage of protective gear.
We have done a job like nobody's ever done a job.
This is life or death.
Nurses are calling it a daily suicide mission.
But as of this morning, people were very, very happy.
We are afraid for our patients. We're afraid for our families. We're afraid for our lives.
Do you think every state in this country should be prepared for mail-in voting?
No, because I think a lot of people cheat with mail-in voting.
As some funeral homes and cemeteries struggle to keep pace with the skyrocketing number of fatalities.
You just asked your question in a very nasty tone. Let's go.
You didn't give me an answer.
Please.
Mr. President,
I gave you a perfect answer. You know it.
It's very hard because, my brother, he died alone.
Hydroxychloroquine. I don't know. It's looking like it's having some good results.
The major change in guidance. The CDC now recommending all Americans wear face coverings amid new concerns the virus can spread just by talking.
This is voluntary. I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
why are you opposed to wearing one yourself?
Well, I just don't want to wear one myself. I'm feeling good.
Tonight, the economic crisis is spiraling.
You try and make it sound so bad. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know what? You ought to be ashamed. It's such a simple question.
The devastating economic toll. The government estimating over 700,000 jobs lost in March, while the actual numbers are far worse.
Mr. President, there are news reports that you want to sign the stimulus checks that are going out here in several months. Is that right? Do you want to sign those?
I know.
The underlying unemployment rate today is probably already 10%, if not higher.
This is ending. This will end. You'll see some bad things, and then you're going to see some really good things. And it's not going to be too long.
So you tell me, you want to trade places with us 4 years ago? You want to go back there? Are you better off today? Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
Once again, are you better off than you? Look, individuals are not necessarily better off, but that doesn't matter in what economy. Some people do well, some people don't do well. But in the aggregate, from the amount of jobs out there to everything else, are you better off today than you were last 4 years ago? The answer is an absolute yes. When you hold a ball in your hands and you drop it, it falls down. It doesn't matter if you feel that ball maybe won't fall down. When you open your hands, that ball will fall down. When you look at your personal economy, if you look at your 401k, if you look at these other things, your life is better than it was 4 years ago. Stop buying into the feelings that Republicans are trying to fool you into feeling. Stop buying into the negativity that they want to promote in order for you to get things that yesterday I talked about. If you want to have a successful economy, economies do much better under Democrats than Republicans. And that's not a feeling. That's a statement of fact that is verifiable. So please, folks, we should all grow up and stop allowing others to cater our minds, to inflict in our minds fallacies that are just that, fallacies. Absolutely so. But I want to get to somebody real quick. Somebody named Jack K. Riashi Jr., and he's a CFP, certified planner. Now, look, I don't know if you're using this guy or whoever is using this guy, but if he makes this comment, one should be concerned. He said, utter horse crap, Egberto. People are working, and we are regaining most of the jobs lost because of the lockdown. but purchasing power is way behind 2020. Madre mia carajo. Is this guy trying to be a certified financial planner for somebody and hasn't kept up to date and realized that we are way past what the employment was pre-pandemic, that we are beyond those numbers now, and he wants to be a certified planner? And he doesn't know that when he says, oh, we can't buy, he also says people can't afford mortgages. Oh, wait a minute. People can't afford mortgages because interest is high. And why is interest high again? Interests are high because the Fed chose to penalize the average American citizen instead of penalizing the corporations. How can they penalize the corporations? By letting them know, if you raise prices, what we will do is tax it at 90% and give it back to the people you stole it from, because your prices didn't increase. And how did we know that your prices didn't increase substantially? Because your financial statement says it. Mr. CFP, Jack K. Riashi Jr. CFP. If you are a CFP doing planning for people, you should know this stuff. You should know this stuff. Bridge MCP, I was missing you, my dear friend. Where have you been? Anyway, folks, Anyway, friends, I want you to sign up for Ask Egberto Anything. That's tomorrow. You can come on. And Mr. Rishi, you should come and talk to us on, sign up for Ask Egberto Anything. It's free. Even to CFPs, it's free. Call into come on, Zoom with us. And I want you to make your case. You're a CFP. You have all those licenses where you help people plan their future. Why don't you come and give us a call tomorrow? Sign up at politicsdoneright.com/Ask Egberto. Let's talk. We can discuss about these issues that you put in there when you tell me I'm full of horse crap. Let's talk. Let's have a good chat. Anyway, folks, go to politicsdoneright.com/Ask Egberto. Likewise, please consider supporting the program. How can you do that? You can do that by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support has all the different ways in which you can support the program. Alternatively, you can support us via our Patreon. That is another thing that we desperately would love for you to start supporting. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Now, anybody, all our newsletters are free, right? But we like to ask you, those of you who have the wherewithal, to please consider becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't mind a coffee or so for Politics Done Right. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber to our newsletter. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and support our books. I have 5 books out. You can find them at politicsdoneright.com/books. And my latest book is Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism Didn't Stop My Smile, Hope, Our Journey Forward. It's worth reading no matter who you are. I guarantee you will enjoy the book. You can get that at politicsdoneright.com/books. But please, we're looking for subscribers to our Patreon and our newsletter. So I ask you so kindly to consider becoming a paid supporter via politicsdoneright.com/newsletter or politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.